Okay, so you were saying that basically it's the squeaky one that gets the wheel, or whatever it is, right? So what I want to ask you is, so it sounds like really you're having to work with a lot of students. Now, do you, when it comes to the essay process, I just want to know, are you getting to really sit there and go through every application, looking at every essay, getting to know the student on a really deep level of understanding, like, hey, they've been through this traumatic event, or they've gone to these summer camps, and do you sit there and you get to study the resume and work really like in that level of detail with the child? Or is it more like, send me your draft, we'll take a look at it, we'll make some quick edits and kind of give you some direction, and then it's your job as a student to take ownership and move forward?
I think both scenarios are applicable. What I have found that our students, they don't see their situations as really stories. They just see this as part of their life, and they don't see it as extraordinary, or they don't see obstacles as obstacles. They just see it as life. So sometimes in talking to them, when they are those squeaky wheels that come all the time, you build relationships. And when they tell you these things, I had a student whose mother died, and the student never missed a day of school. The mother had been died from cancer. And so in finding that out, I said, well, why hadn't you said? He said, well, life goes on, and we have been prepared. His mother prepared them. So it really didn't, it was just, things kept going. So I find out my students typically don't see their issues as real issues or problems. So it's in building those relationships that I can say, hey, this is something you need to write about. You have overcome a whole lot of things.
Right.
And giving them that eye to look at their situation in another way.
Absolutely. What would you say is the number one challenge being a college counselor? You've had over 20 years of experience. You've got this much experience. What would you say is the number one challenge that you're facing, especially in the 20 years, seeing the entire trajectory of what's expected and the competition?
I think the number one challenge is to get them to see that the work, they have to put in work. We're in an instant gratification society right now, and
yes,
they think that, number one, if they do the essay, they're supposed to win. And number two, why they have to keep writing all these essays. And I tell them, nobody's going to give you money just because you're cute or just because you're handsome. They want to feel good about adding something to a student's life, and you have to give them that thing so that they can be happy and pleased and know that they're investing in you. You have to look at it like that. And nobody's just going to do that because you're Sally Jones.
Right, of course. And in terms of, your experience, if you could change anything about what you do, what would it be?
If I could change anything, I would like to have fewer students. And I think my school, we do a good job. There are 11 counselors. And so we do spend a lot of time with the students. But even at that, I would like to be able to spend more time. So with a smaller caseload or without all the paperwork that we do in non-counseling things, I would like that to change.
Absolutely. Would you say there are times where you're writing, and we try to do as much strategy from the college consultant side to help you guys with, for example, the college counselor's letters of recommendation. Are there ever times you're writing a letter of recommendation and you really don't know the student at a granular level?
Oftentimes. What we do, we have a recommendation form where we have them fill out, put things, unusual things, and sometimes, we tell them, particularly if they're very new students, say new to the school, and they come second semester and they're coming to ask for recommendations. Well, I will write you one. I'm going to try, give me the information, where you went to school, do you work part-time, what obstacles, if any, that you've had to overcome. But then I often suggest that if you do work, maybe your boss can give you a letter, because it would be more insightful than something I could say. I was a former English teacher. I can write a pretty good letter for my students.
Right, of course.
But I think that even at my best in trying to craft something, if I knew them better, it would be much easier.
Absolutely. And would you say, I guess let's just go at it. What is your opinion on college consultants? I'm sure you've come across them in your 20 years.
Absolutely. And I would say that over the years, my opinion has changed. We tell our students, my school is a Title I school, and that means most of our students are on a lower socioeconomic status than most. So when they get the letters, especially many of our students are first generation, asking to come to this seminar where we guarantee you're going to get this money and things like that. And so we do tend to steer our students away from that, simply because for the most part they can't afford it. And but I will say that in certain instances, I think that they are very important and can open doors or just give different pathways that I might not be able or have connections with. So I think I know that my impression of them has changed over the years in a positive direction.
And would you say that getting into college is more competitive than it was 20 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. I think that even with the state schools and the top 10% rule and things like that, getting in is one thing, paying for it is another. Mm-hmm. And I think for the students that I come into contact with, the emphasis on making wise decisions and finding scholarships that will be able to afford the college that they really want to go to. Many of them have dreams of attending very, very expensive schools, and it has been a hunt for them. I had a couple of weeks ago, we had students, former graduates who attend school out of state. We had 2 from Columbia, 1 from University of Pennsylvania, Stanford, and they came back to talk to our students, and all of them were first generation students.
Wow.
About the importance of finding the financial aid and making that almost your life's mission to try to apply for every scholarship that's out there.
Right.
And it was very rewarding knowing that, through my time at the school that, I was able to influence and help some of those students.
Absolutely. And, I know we had some technical difficulties earlier, so I might just go ahead and ask the questions that we had earlier. So, Renee, can you tell us how many students it is that you're typically working with as a college counselor?
I have a little under 300 students. This year, for the first time, they're all seniors. But in the past year, the numbers have been about the same, but they would be divided up between 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Got it. And in terms of the essays, would you say that you get a lot of time with students on essays, or would you say it's mostly them, the ones that are kind of hounding you is probably the best way to say it. Those are the students that really get the level of attention, and, the ones that can send in their drafts and have you kind of check it to get it to that final round?
Absolutely. Those ones that come and they'll email and read this for me, what do you think? Those students typically get the bulk of the time, but they don't necessarily those are the easy ones, the ones that are, have a focus and they're driven. It's the other ones that, that you're encouraging them to even attempt to do this. This is something that is doable for you, but certainly the time that I would like to spend is not there.
And what would you like parents to know about that? I think that's one of the biggest things is, from a college counselor's perspective, if you could say a message to parents about look, if you guys understood where we're at, maybe they can empathize and understand you better, because from a college consultant's perspective, I only work with maybe 10 to 15 students one-on-one. And so the difference between someone who works with 15 students versus someone who works with 300, it's going to be a different experience. So can you maybe talk from your experience as a college counselor?
Absolutely. I think that by sheer numbers, that the time that we would like to spend with each student is cut dramatically. However, I would like parents to know that if they start the process early and sit down and all of us, parent, student, map out a realistic goal for the student. Let's look at where they want to go, have the reach school, and just make out a plan that we tell everyone, but sometimes it's not until January of the senior year that parents now all this has happened. My son hasn't heard anything. What's going on? What are you doing to help him? And just realize that it is a job. it is work, and it's not just my work, it's our work together.
Yes, absolutely. And I was having a conversation this weekend with someone about the concept of college shortcuts. And a lot of times people think when I say shortcut, it means it's a shortcut, which means it's no work. The truth about the shortcut is I'm going to tell you what you need to do, what the plan is. I'm going to break it down into pieces for you, but you still got to do the work. For example, right now I'm on a goal of losing 20 pounds. There's no shortcut unless I cut my arms off to lose the pounds really fast. That would be the shortcut. But in reality, I know exactly who I need to go to, exactly what workout I need to do, and how I need to eat. That's still a lot of work, and it's a plan, right?
Exactly.
So I know it's a big confusion point when parents expect the college counselor to just be like, here you go, you handle it. And in reality, they can do that with me, right? Because we're one-on-one and we're only handling a handful of students. We can literally get in there and do it with the kid. But would you say as a college counselor, it's merely impossible for you to be the only person that's taking ownership of the list, contacting the schools, the college visits, the letters of recommendation strategy, the scholarship strategy, the essays, and the resume build-out?
That's a hard one because that's exactly my charge as a high school counselor, is to do all of that. I try to do all of that well. I think I do a pretty good job at it. There are a whole lot of room for improvement, but I think the expectation of what we are capable of doing is a little unrealistic. And if that's all we had to do, would be fine, but we still have to fill schedules. We still have to, go over proof sheets with teachers. And so when you add that into what we have to do during the course of a day and a year, it makes the quality time difficult.
Absolutely. It sounds like, honestly, and I was that kid, that would hound my college counselor all the time. I mean, I was that kid in high school that was like, these are my lists, this is what I'm doing, and the college counselor, I think at first loved it, was like, wow, like she's on it, she's got it. And I think there were some students in my grade that like barely got any college counselor time. They probably just let the college counselor know where they got in. Mm-hmm. Do you have that sometimes where a kid doesn't even take ownership and it's like senior year December and November and they're like, hey Renee, what's going on? I mean, does that happen as well in your case? Because we see it on our end. I get calls, I don't get to celebrate Halloween, Thanksgiving, or New Year's because these are the 3 deadlines colleges set as right? November 1st, December 1st, January 1st. We all know this in our industry. And I get calls where the mom is crying and screaming. It's like, Neha, can you help us? Do you deal with that ever? I mean, in your industry as well?
Absolutely. It really is no different. I think that the students, and I think this is generational, most of them, because we have helped them along the way so much that now we're ready to put it on in their laps, and they're not ready for it. So we send Remind 101, send text messages, emails to try to help them to remember, particularly this year where we got out for Christmas break,
right,
for 16th, then go back into January 3rd. So we had deadlines that were met. I actually went up to school because I got an email from a student. He asked me during the Christmas break to write a letter of recommendation. So I had his information at school. So I did. I don't want to be the one to block a student. Just personally, that I can't do.
I know. I'm the same way. I mean, that's why I literally don't get to celebrate any of these holidays because I'm that person too because we care so much. Exactly. So, I did. I went to school and I got it done. But it would have been good if I had a little more warning. I have students that come first period and they need a letter by 5th period. So, and I do. And I say, I'll do it. It can't be as good as it could have been. Right.
Given the time constraints, but we do have teachers who refuse to do that, and I do have a problem with that,
I know.
Walk in a person's shoes for a minute.
I know. I mean, it sounds like, really, when we're talking about planning, and I try to tell my students this as much as possible, honestly, really it starts around second semester, sophomore year, to start making sure you're in the right organizations, right summer activities.
Exactly.
Test prep should be happening fall junior year.
Yes.
Not
yes.
senior year.
Yes. First semester trying to get it done.
Right? Get it over
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? And then second semester, junior year, and then yes, let's talk about that college list. Now we have data points. We got the GPA, we got the test score. All right, now we have a sense of where they should go. And then the essays and resume, when students work with me, just so you know, they're done with the entire application process by August 1st.
Right, that's the goal. And now next year that they're opening it up July, and so we have to move with the times. And I think that many students from my school, they may have had a brother or sister to go through the process, and so they're going back on what they said. But things have changed. FAFSA opens up early now. Next year, Apply Texas is open up earlier. So we have to keep ahead of the times. The old way of doing things, we've got to come around and change.
Absolutely. Renee, this has been so insightful. I cannot wait to share this, our College Shortcuts TV episode on college counselor versus college consultant, because I think so many times people think we're against each other. And I know you and I could talk all day because we're on the same page about kids planning, parents knowing the expectations of what your role is, knowing what my role is in the process, and that there really is work to be done here. It's not just this, auto admit unless you're applying UT and your top, whatever percent. And yes, that's different, but they still have to fill out an application. I mean, there's
absolutely,
right. So thank you so much, Renee, for reaching out. I'm so glad to have you on this episode. It's been amazing chatting with you and really being able to show parents that we are on the same page, that it takes a tribe to make a difference.
Exactly. I enjoyed talking to you. I hope this won't be the last time.
I hope not either. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. You have a great day.
You too.